Well, welcome everyone. Thank you very much for coming. My name is Sam Rivers. I'm the Technical Controls Manager for ICL. I seem to have been bigged up slightly by talking about this new dawn for biostimulants. The reality is I'm going to be discussing exactly what biostimulants are and how we're looking to use them in peat-free. Defining what exactly are biostimulants, going over some of the legislation because there's a few updates there. Go over some of the range that we're actually using in peat-free, some of the trial work we've done as well, and also I've just got a very basic trial just to discuss some of the product development products we've been working on. Now, what are biostimulants? Now, I'm sure most people have seen numerous definitions. I certainly see a lot on social media that they can be used as fertilizers, they can be used as plant protection products. Most of it's incorrect. The best definition I've found, which I will read verbatim, is biostimulants can be described as substances and/or microorganisms that, when applied to plants or the rhizosphere, stimulate natural processes in the plant to benefit nutrient uptake, nutrient efficiency, tolerance to abiotic stress, and crop quality, independent of their nutrient content. Biostimulants, what they're not, are a replacement for precise, targeted nutrition, so your controlled release, your slow release, and robust IPM practices. Bringing it back to peat-free, my remit is to look at how they can be used to overcome some of the issues we might see in peat-free growing, and my personal belief is that they can be a missing link towards this direction we're heading in. It's important to understand that not all biostimulants are the same as well. There's thousands of different products. I do think they sometimes get grouped into one category, and it's important to understand the differing effects they have on plant growth. So a few examples here, we've got beneficial bacteria, so your microbes, your Bacillus subtilis, beneficial fungi, your mycorrhizal fungi, seaweeds. I'm sure everyone's seen about 1,000 different seaweed products on the market, yeast-based products as well, humic substances, plant metabolites such as amino acids, and things such as silicon. This is just a very brief overview, but it's important to understand the differing effects that they all have on plant production. Now, they can work in numerous different ways. They can stimulate natural defensive mechanisms, natural processes within the plant. They can induce things such as plant hormones as well, such as gibberellins, indo-free acetic acid, utilising confined nutrients in the rhizosphere, such as your mycorrhizal products, and improving tolerance to abiotic stress, as we're talking about things like waterlogging and drought. Bringing it back to the whole peat-free, again, I believe there could be a missing link to overcome some of the issues that we see in peat-free growing. When we talk about that, we look at how raw materials are processed. You saw in the video this morning, the wood fibre that we use, it's superheated, so it becomes quite a sterile media. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. But this processing of these raw materials can actually result in fewer beneficial organisms. So different biostimulants that we use can help overcome some of these issues seen. So some of the benefits of using biostimulants in peat-free, well, we see improved rooting and establishment for the use of some of these products, which can be an issue sometimes in peat-free. I don't know if anyone's bought a peat-based product and then potted it into a peat-free growing media that they've got off a retail site. The plant will just sometimes sit there. Tolerance to abiotic stress, again, that can help with irrigation management. It's one of the most common questions we get asked about peat-free, is that it dries out very quick. Products that can help with that sort of management as well. And improved nutrient uptake, reducing the impact of things such as nitrogen drawdown. We want to be more kind of sustainable with our nitrogen use, so biostimulants can aid in that as well. And general, we see improvements in general soil carbon and pH. The boring bit now, so I'm sorry about this. The legislation. It's important to understand what is and isn't classed as a biostimulant. In the UK, we have very relaxed requirements on biostimulant use. They're very unregulated, but the main considerations is that they cannot claim control. If a product's claiming control, then it has to be registered as a pesticide. It will have to get as a plant protection product and have a MAP number. Also, biostimulants that claim to have a fertilizing effect have to be registered under the fertilizer product regulations, or the FPR. You can have biostimulants with fertilizers in their formulation. It's just all about what claims you're making with that product. What's generally considered a biostimulant is a product that stimulates plant nutrition processes independent of the product's nutrient content. And this also is becoming more relevant when we look at nutrient use efficiency, tolerance to abiotic stress, plant quality traits, and availability of confined nutrients in the soil or rhizosphere. Why that is becoming more relevant is because new EU standards, which are designed to support biostimulant claims, are now in place throughout Europe. It's not the legislation in the UK, but it is coming eventually. But the standards basically put a level of quality control on the use of plant biostimulants. It puts the level on the manufacturer. If I had a product I wanted to register, I would have to make sure it meets one of these kind of standards. So we'll go through them. So part one, it all deals with the claims of what biostimulants are saying they do. So general principles is part one. That actually just covers parts 2, 3, 4 and 5. But part 2, you'll see it's nutrient use efficiency resulting from the use of a biostim. Part 3 is tolerance to abiotic stress. So can a biostimulant help improve drought conditions and plant stress factors such as that? Part 4 is probably the only grey area because it talks about improvement of quality traits. I take that to mean improved rooting, improved top growth, improved flowering, but yeah, it's a slightly grey area. And then part 5 is determination or availability of confined nutrients in the soil or rhizosphere. So if I had to register a biostimulant, I don't have to meet all of those parts, but saying if I had a product that I say improves rooting, I would have to do a registration dossier under part 4. Now to get that registration through, there's a lot more emphasis on the testing now. So we have to do independent trials on specific factors. So generally crops have been divided into 3 groups. We have broadacre, woody perennials, ornamentals, aromatic and medicinal have been grouped into the same group. So with my product, if I wanted to register for all 3 groups, I would need to do 9 successful trials, so 3 in each group. If I was looking to just register the product to be used in broadacre crops or woody perennials, it's 8 trials, so 4 in each group. And when we're talking about ornamentals, it's 6 trials in 2 different crops. So it would be 3 in bedding, 3 in nursery stock, or 3 in propagation, whichever we see fit. I believe this is quite a good thing because actually all the trials have to be done independently of the manufacturer, so there's no manufacturer bias involved. It all has to be tested according to kind of field conditions or controlled conditions where more appropriate. I like the fact that there's stats involved as well, so it puts a real high level of quality control in these products. And we also need to correct for the nutrition effect as well, so we can determine actually what part of that product is having the impact on plant growth. The potential implications, well, the UK market, DEFRA are currently considering the regulatory approach. They've been considering this for the last 5 years, so we're not seeing it anytime soon. I have been told that they're looking at maybe a simplified version of this sort of approach, which might actually be quite useful because the level of investment that needs to be done is quite high. We've got a general election coming up as well, so depending on the results of that, that might be brought forward or it might be kicked down the road another 10 years. But what it will be a real strict set of standards appointed by UK law to support biostimulant claims. So it gives you a lot more confidence. If we tell you this product improves rooting, we will have all the data to back that claim up. Unfortunately, there will be a lot of products which are on the market which may not be able to support that level of investment. Trials are not cheap. When you're talking, we have to do 6 trials. Average price of a trial can be £3,000 to £4,000. That's a considerable amount of investment. But the other thing that could benefit is that a lot of these snake oils that you sometimes see, the compost teas, they'd probably be phased out of the market. Now, just briefly touching on what the CE mark is. Generally, the CE mark is the European conformity marking that indicates a product meets safety, health and environmental standards set by the EU fertiliser product regulations to be sold across the European Economic Area. The UK has its own sort of mark thanks to Brexit, the UKCA, but this is not recognised across Europe. So when we're looking to use these products which we sell in Europe, we have to have it tested to meet the CE mark. So under the new regulations, the CE mark covers biostimulants. So to obtain that CE mark, it's about putting all that trial work together as part of your registration package. ICL were one of the first companies to actually have a product registered under the new FPR, earning it's a CE mark. So it's changing industry slightly going into turf, but we have a product called H2 Pro Tri-Smart. So it's been recognised, it's a biostimulant, it's a wetting agent to be recognised as a non-microbial biostimulant to help improve drought conditions in turf. We work with independent research organisations. A lot of this work was actually been done previously through places like the Sports Turf Research Institute up north in Bingley. So we have that data ready to go quite quickly. So that's a good win. And we look at the ornamental side of things from our current product range. We're currently undergoing all the trial work to meet this registration as well. So it's future-proofing these products for use in ornamentals. Going forward, it gives you a lot more confidence because the claims we make on them will be supported by a robust amount of data and a registration ultimately. Now just bringing it back to peat-free slightly, going over some of the products. I won't go into too much detail, but one of the products we use is based on brewer's yeast. It's called Vital Nova Prime. It's a natural elicitor. If you ripped a plant leaf with your hands, there would be a wounding response. But if an insect was to consume the foliage, insects and plants have co-evolved over millions of years. The plant recognizes the molecules in the insect saliva, or elicitors, and then that upregulates all these natural processes. So you see an improvement in plant quality traits. So this is available in a 1 litre pack. You see it's formulated with copper and sulphur there, but I will get onto that in 1 second. Generally, it's suitable for organic growing, can be used across all crop types. I won't go into too much detail on this. All the info is in a lot of these brochures as well. But what we see in kind of peat-free growing, we see improved rooting, plant quality traits as well, improved flowering, and all the trials we're doing are looking at that. Now, then we have a new formulation, which is why I said about the copper and sulphur. The new formulation, which will be available towards the end of this year or early next year, we won't have the copper and sulphur in the formulation, but it will be registered under the FPR. We've done that because most of the data we actually have supports the product without the copper and sulphur. You'll see here, we've done some genetic testing, looking at what certain processes are upregulated or downregulated. So you see at the top the control. So the darker the green here, the more upregulation of these processes within the plant. So the control, there is some green because this is mimicking a natural response in the plant. But treatment 1, which is highlighted, is actually prime without the copper and sulphur in its formulation. So you can see a real upregulation of processes such as cell growth, photosynthesis, respiration, translocation, defensive mechanisms, and senescence. So we use that data to support the registration. Moving on from Prime, I just want to go on to Vital Nova Tri-Boost. I've done a lot of work with this product from a microbial point of view. The research has been looked at areas across the world where there's really low incidences of soil health conditions. So we looked at really productive like wine-producing regions such as France, Italy, California. What they found with these 3 microbes, they're quite a dominant element in these productive soils. So it's been formulated into this product called Tri-Boost. When we look at it from a peat-free perspective, each strain's kind of been selected to help with that. So the strains are Bacillus subtilis, so that helps with the fixation of nitrogen, increases the availability of phosphorus, potassium and zinc as well. Enterococcus faecium, that's been researched to positively influence and induce plant growth hormones such as gibberellins, indo-free acetic acid. And then lactobacillus shows improvements in overall plant health. But what this is a blend of these 3 beneficial microbes. So generally speaking, trying to condense this subject down into a half-hour talk is quite difficult. I'm no mycologist myself, but it's a massive subject. But there's numerous benefits to using plant microbes. They're extremely beneficial to kind of soil productivity. You'll see them used a lot more in agriculture, but my remit is to look at this in ornamental horticulture. So they help break down plant residues, improve soil carbon, pH. There's a whole heap of benefits to using them. Now when we talk about peat-free, we look at the raw materials and how they're processed. So like I say, the wood fibre is superheated, coir is steam sterilised, things like loam are sterilised as well. It becomes quite a sterile growing media, so we deplete that natural community of microbes. In things such as bark, we actually see they're one of the most biologically active products on the market. The Forestry Commission published a study looking at this and actually found that bark actually has a really high amount of kind of phytopathogens, so phytophthora, pythiums, those sorts of products. Doesn't necessarily mean you'll see them from a growth perspective. It's just the likelihood might increase if you have perfect conditions for their growth. So it's understanding actually what is that microbial community at the beginning, the different raw materials we use. Some of them might be a completely sterile media, some might have higher concentrations, but it's really difficult to actually calculate that. And we see some products, we'll talk a little bit about organics today, but you'll see some products such as organics claiming to say they boost the microbial content. And I always play devil's advocate with that approach by saying, well, actually what microbes are you stimulating? If it's in 100% coir and it's quite a sterile media, are there any microbes in there in the first place? So we have to really understand that the different growing media mixes we use, they might have different microbial content. And a lot of research you'll see on this is actually done in soils. when we're talking about containerized nursery stock, it's a very different picture. So this is where TriBoost comes in. It's a known concentration of microbes that we know stimulate all these natural processes within the plant. It's now available in a 5 kilo pack. We sell this in a 25 kilo pack for use throughout our growing media, but through the factory, sorry. So the rate of use is 500 grams per cubic meter. Because it's freeze-dried and it's microbial, it actually stores for a very long time, and it stores at very high temperatures. Most bacteria will actually survive above 100 degrees and right down to freezing as well. It can also be applied as a drench application at the same rate, just applied as a drench at 10% pot volume. Now just some of the trial work. Again, we've done a lot of trials, but just to give you a brief overview. So one of the trials we did with Prime and TriBoost was actually conducted here at NIAB. This was in peat-free growing media, but I stressed that there was absolutely nothing added to this mix. It was just raw materials only. There's no ferts, so I really wanted to stress the impact of the biostimulant here. So we looked at Prime as a drench, the copper and sulfur from the Prime. We looked at TriBoost as well, and then we compared that to a control. You can see the Prime actually looks quite good compared to other treatments. Again, I wasn't expecting amazing results here because it was done in the autumn, so very cold conditions. No nutrition in there. But you can see the rooting and the top growth is relatively okay considering that. When we look at the copper and sulfur, yes, there's an effect, but not so much when you add that to the Prime. TriBoost clearly had the best overall effect here, but again, it looks poor because there's no nutrition, it's grown and it's running out of feed. But I think when you compare all of them to the control, you can see one or two kind of measly roots sticking through there. So it really stresses actually where the biostimulant comes in. And when you actually add the whole thing together, when you add the fertilizers like the Osmocote into the picture, you can see the results there are really, really quite striking. So this is on the left here, it's our growing media, but without the TriBoost, and on the right is with the TriBoost in a peat-free choice year crop. The picture on the left actually is a decent plant, but the TriBoost is increasing that establishment at a very quick rate. So it's that kind of benefit we're seeing in peat-free growing. We've done some poinsettia trials as well. Again, we've put the whole mix together. When we look at the kind of the growth parameters here, compared against the competitor, we're at like a much quicker kind of establishment phase, kind of an earlier stage here. But then when we look at the complete plant, we're actually seeing a really robust plant that looks no different to a peat-based or a peat-reduced mix. And when we look across the whole bed, so on the right is the peat-free mix, on the left is the peat-reduced mix, you're not seeing any differences, and that's ultimately the result we want to achieve with peat-free. And we've done a lot of trials across the UK with growers looking at these products, and again, this is where I see them as this missing link. So we look at fertilizers, we look at the wetting agents, we look at the base level of nutrition, but adding a biostimulant can really help support that kind of quality. Just to wrap up, I want to kind of briefly talk about some product development that we've been working on. My remit is to really look at products actually benefiting peat-free. Now there's thousands of biostimulants out there on the market, but from my point of view, I want to look at things that can be easily incorporated into growing media that we can apply at the factory, so it overcomes that kind of grower level application. It's ultimately done for the customer. I'm looking at longer term products as well, things that last over 10 to 12 weeks. One product which is based on nitrogen fixing bacteria. So the product's actually already registered under the FPR for use in agriculture, so it's got proven efficacy, but we need to look at that from an ornamental perspective. This is a very basic look-see trial because I figured actually we want to be looking at how we can reduce nitrogen inputs because it's a more sustainable approach. We don't want to be increasing leaching incidences and applying these sorts of fertilizers. So if we have a product that can help with that, that's always a benefit. So treatment 1 was kind of a full rate with no feed. Treatment 2 is a control of absolutely no nutrition as well. We've done treatment 4 with a full rate of the biostimulant with the feed, and then a treatment 5 I did a kind of massive rate just to see really stress out that effect. This is all in peat-free. Personally, the differences aren't that amazing, but the thing that attracts me to this product is actually it is a one-time application and it lasts for the whole year. So I need to do more trials to look at this. So one of the treatments I haven't done here is actually take out the nitrogen as a base source. So some more work I'm going to be doing is actually taking that nitrogen out and seeing the benefit here. So just to conclude, and we can look at a bit more detail for this trial, biostimulants can help overcome some of the issues seen in peat-free, but it's key to understand what biostimulant you're actually using and what effect it's actually having on plant growth to get that benefit out of it. And this robust data is going to help give you more clarity on where we're using them and give you more confidence in their use.